Omega Pro family, hello. Hope each and every one of you guys are doing great. What an amazing day, what an amazing opportunity, and what an honor for me to be with you tonight to lead the call, one of the most important calls, one of the most important meetings and webinars of the year. Now, we have promised you guys to be there for you when it comes to getting educated, when it comes to learning, when it comes to being a better human being, building a better business, and today, when it comes to being a better leader. And we have a special guest tonight for you guys that is going to go through the steps how to be a good leader, how to be, and a leader is not only in business, as you guys know, it's also in life. Now, we are very, very happy to have this gentleman on our call today. And so here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to have him 60 minutes, go in depth with each and every one of you guys, educate you on and teach you how to lead, right? And after that, we have asked on our social media channels for you guys to send us some questions that you want to know, that you want to ask him. And I have selected a couple of very important, interesting questions, which we will then go through at the end of the 60 minutes with him, and he will go through the answers for you guys, and we look really, really forward to this. So without further ado, I don't want to take a lot of your time, and I just want to get into this as soon as possible. Guys, this gentleman said once, live to learn, and you will really learn how to live. And he's the #1 best-selling New York Times best-selling author, coach, speaker. He sold more than 26 million books in different languages all around the globe. #1 leader in business by American Management Association, the most influential leadership in the world. Please welcome to the call for tonight, for the first time on our Omega Pro family call, John Maxwell.
Much, and I'm so excited to be with you at Omega Pro. Look forward to our time together. Congratulations on your success. You're making a difference not only in your own life, but you're making a difference for so many people. And when I think of the thousands that I'm speaking to, and then I think of your influence of speaking to tens of thousands, that number really of influence really begins to expand. And that's why I'm excited to be with you here. My name is John. I'm your friend. And I'm really going to commit myself in this next hour to add great value to your leadership and to your success in helping you reach your potential. For 50 years, I have taught that everything rises and falls on leadership. It's that statement that gave me the conviction and passion to learn how to lead, to train leaders, to write about leadership, to literally give my entire life dedicated and devoted to helping people learn how to lead well. Because when you think of the statement, everything rises or it falls on leadership, all of a sudden we begin to understand the importance of learning how to lead very well. Someone asked me recently, John, when leadership rises, what causes it to go well? And I said, well, there's two things. Your leadership will rise when you develop your leadership skills and when you have good leadership values. You cannot substitute one for the other. I know people who have great leadership skills, but they lack good values, and so therefore they manipulate people and take advantage of them. I know people who have great values, but they don't have leadership skills. So they make a wonderful friend, but you don't want to follow them as a leader. But when you understand that if I lead well with good skills and good values, I'm going to do well. That's why in my book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, I talk about the law of the lid. How well you lead determines how well you succeed. So today I want to talk to you about reaching your potential as a leader. In fact, the title of the lesson is The Potential Question. And in a moment, I'm going to give you that potential question, but let me tell you a story first. When I was 25, literally 50 years ago, I heard Earl Nightingale say that if I would spend 1 hour a day, every day, for 5 years on the same subject, 1 hour every day for 5 years on the same subject, He said I would become an expert in whatever subject that I committed myself to study, to practice, to learn. Well, I was so passionate about leadership, I thought, okay, I want to be a leadership expert. So I committed myself to 1 hour a day, every day, in the area of leadership development. And so I read leadership books, I asked leadership questions, I did leadership practices, I talked to leadership people, I had leadership experiences every day. And I kept thinking about the fact that Mr. Nightingale said in 5 years I could become an expert in leadership. And so I started this whole growth journey, trying to reach my potential. I started this whole growth journey basically saying, well, it'll take me 5 years to be a leadership expert. And so I was thinking of time, like after my first year was at 5, 4, 3. I'm doing a countdown. And the reason I'm doing that is because in 5 years, Earl Nightingale said I'd become a leadership expert. So I kept asking myself the question every day as I would practice my leadership and study leadership and talk to leaders. Well, how long will it take? How long will it take? Well, he said 5 years. And well, I've finished 1 year, so I'm at 4. And how long will it take? How long will it take? About halfway in that 5-year journey, I quit asking the question, how long will it take? I found a new question. But before I give you that question, let me just share with you that I stopped asking the question, how long will it take? Because I stopped focusing on a timeline, because I was developing and growing myself as a leader. And I could tell halfway through this process, I'm a better leader. I'm gaining an influence. People are following me. They're listening to me. I'm being able to take people from point A to point B. My leadership skills are getting better. And there was something so exciting, so wonderful, so enthralling about this that I quit asking the question, how long will it take? Because now no longer am I on a timeline, a deadline, but I started asking a new question. And it's this new question that I call the potential question. In fact, the question I'm about to give you, I have been asking it of myself for 50 years. You see, in the beginning, how long will it take? How long will it take? How long will it take? But my life began to change. I began to be transformed. I began to be a very good leader. My leadership skills were growing. And I stopped asking the question, how long will it take? And I started asking the question, how far can I go? And that is the potential question. How far can you go? How far can I go? Now, let me just say that at the end of my 5-year journey, I didn't become a leadership expert at all. I think Mr. Nightingale just tricked me, to be honest with you, to get me into the habit and the process of developing leadership skills. But in 5 years, I wasn't a leadership expert. In fact, 50 years now, I'm not a leadership expert. Yeah, I'm recognized as the #1 leadership expert in the world, but I'm not one. Because here's what happens. The more that you know, the more that you know you don't know. And the more you know that you don't know, the more you know that you're not an expert. I'm still growing. I'm still climbing. I'm still on this journey. I'm still asking myself the question, how far can I go? And that's the question throughout my talk today. I want you to continually ask yourself. My father was a terrific leader. We were having lunch one day when he was 95. He was still working full time. And as we were having lunch, he looked at me and he said, John, I think my best days are still ahead of me. Now think of this. He's 95. He thinks his best days are still ahead of him. I know people 25 that can't say that. Now, how could my father make that kind of a statement? I mean, when you think about it, 95 years of age, asking himself and saying to himself, I think my best days are ahead of me. Why would he say that? I'm going to let you in on a little secret about this potential question, how far can I go? My father realized for him, this isn't true for everybody. Maybe it's not even true for you. But for him, he realized there's no finish line. There's no 5-year expert line out there. There's no kind of timeline, deadline, finish line. He realized that his life was still growing and he was still learning. In fact, that conversation stimulated me to put on my book list books I still want to write. I've written 88 of them, and I have a list of another dozen yet I still want to write. But I'm going to write a book in the future called Is There a Finish Line? And it's going to be in the form of a question, because for some people there is. Some people say, when I make enough money, I'm not going to do that anymore. Or when I get to a certain age, I'm not going to do that anymore. Or when I have a certain amount of stuff in my life, I'm not going to do that anymore. See, a lot of people have what I call self-imposed finish lines. And let me just say this: if you have one, if you've kind of written down a time, a date, a place where you say, you know what, I'm done. Let me just say this. Maybe you've not thought of it before. Do you realize if you cross one of your self-imposed finish lines, that when you cross it, you're finished? Is there anything exciting about that? I have seen so many people with incredible potential who didn't ask the potential question, how far can I go? And they asked the question that I asked in the beginning, how long will this take? And that's not the right question. If you're asking yourself, how long will this take? You're never going to be able to come close to the potential that you have, the potential that God gave you. The question is, how far can I go? And for 50 years, I've been asking the question, how far can I go? And I don't know the answer yet, because I'm not there yet. There is no finish line for me. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still excited about what I'm doing. I'm still starting new ventures. There's no finish line, because I don't want to have a self-imposed one and then be finished. I kind of want to live till I die, honestly, and not get the two confused. So here's where the practice come in, because whenever I have a talk like this, and I have the opportunity to be with so many terrific people like you that have unlimited potential, I'm always challenged to be very practical with you, to give you practices and thoughts in my life that have really helped me to continually ask this question, how far can I go? So get ready, because we're going to now go on a learning journey. In fact, look at the person you're seated beside right now and just say to them, hey, take some good notes. You're about to learn something. Because that's exactly what's going to happen. So I wrote down the things that I do that allow me to keep growing, keep learning, to keep stretching, to keep traveling, to continue this amazing potential journey that I'm on. And I think the things that help me have terrific possibility of helping you too. So let me give them to you, not in any particular order. Number one isn't more important than maybe number 4, but these are just things that I have done for 50 years that allow me today to still not be at the finish line and ask myself, how far can I really go? And by the way, I do not know that answer. All I know about that question is I can go farther than I've gone today. That's the one thing I know. What I don't know is how far can I go? And as you think of yourself, I want you to continually throughout my talk ask yourself the same question, how far can I go? And I'm going to promise you, if you'll commit to the practices that I'm about to give you, you're going to go farther than you could ever imagine in your life. You're going to go higher than you could have ever dreamed of. I promise you, this works. And the reason I know it works is for 50 years, I've been asking myself the potential question. And for 50 years, I've been asking myself, how far can I go? And I'm not there yet, but I continue to grow, and I continue to learn, and I continue to develop. So let me give them to you. Number one, I keep growing, I keep traveling, I keep learning, I keep developing because I'm aware of what I call the 3 pillars of potential. You see, your potential, my potential, leans up against 3 pillars, and these 3 pillars literally will determine how strong we are and what kind of a building we are building for ourselves to realize the dreams that we have. Several years ago, I wrote a book called No Limits. And the pillars of the potential that I'm about to talk to you about, and I'm talking just briefly, the book is much longer, obviously, are in this book. And the 3 pillars are this: awareness, strengths, and choices. If I grow in my awareness and if I develop my strengths, wow, and if I make the right choices, that question, how far can I go? I will be asking myself that forever because I will never reach that destination. So when I talk about you growing in your awareness, here's what I know. In my book, The 15 Laws of Growth, I teach the fact that you cannot grow yourself if you do not know yourself. So awareness is so essential for me reaching my potential because I need to know, especially I need to be very aware of my weak areas, the things that I do not do well, the things that blindside me and keep me from being the success that I really want to be. As I have watched and coached so many people, I'm totally cognizant of the fact that their lack of awareness, the lack of their awareness of what they don't do well, continually hinders them and holds them back from reaching their potential. So there needs to be an awareness of which almost always is given to us by people around us. My weaknesses, my blind spots have been revealed to me by my friends. And if they wouldn't have come and walked in my life, I would still not be aware of them. So when people talk about being self-aware, I'm a little amused by that. Basically, your self-awareness or my self-awareness is dependent upon somebody walking into our life who cares for us and loves us tremendously and is able to help us with our blind spots and help us understand how to get better even in our weak areas. And then in our strengths, to be able to develop our strengths, because those 3 or 4 strengths that you have, that the giftedness, the abilities that you have, that's what you need to develop. Because as you develop those strengths, you get much better. Remember this, you reach your potential by developing your strengths, not by developing your weaknesses. You want to be able to know your weaknesses so that you can help other people cover you in that area, but you want to develop your strengths. And then, obviously, you have to make the right choices. There's a choice that you have to make in everything you do, so keep in mind that in the end, the choice you make, it makes you. So choices are so essential. So in asking myself the potential question, how far can I go? I'm continually cognizant of the fact that I need to be totally aware of my weaknesses. I need to develop my strengths, and I need to make the right choices. Now, the second thing I want to share with you that helps me to keep climbing, growing, developing, expanding, is that I continually invest in my personal growth. And the result of continually, intentionally developing my personal growth is that I'm going and growing every day. And the reason that I am is because I'm very intentional in my essentials. Let me explain this to you. When I was in my 20s, I had a friend, a mentor named Kurt Kampmeyer, and we were having breakfast one day, and he asked me what my plan for personal growth and development was. I didn't have one. I was very young, had no clue that I should have one, never heard of anyone else having one. And that day, Kurt Kampmeyer shared with me that growth is not automatic, that I will not automatically get better in life, that if I'm going to be growing in my life, I'm going to have to be intentional in that. Well, that was staggering to me. In fact, I can still remember over the breakfast table, Kurt looking at me and saying, getting older, that's automatic. Getting better, that's not. You're going to have to be intentional. I literally went to my friends and I asked them. I said, "Do you have a personal growth plan?" And I don't know. Probably over 4 or 5 months, I asked maybe 250 of my friends that question, and not one of them had a personal growth plan. And then all of a sudden, I discovered that no one ever teaches us that we have to be intentional in developing and growing ourselves. That it's not automatic, and just because we show up at work doesn't mean that we're going to get better. We have to be intentional. And then I had to ask myself, if I'm going to really grow and I'm going to make it happen, in what areas do I grow in that are going to allow me to be highly successful? Now, this took a long time. I'm breaking this down very quickly to you, but to make the long story short, I came to the conclusion that I needed to grow in 5 areas. And I needed to be very intentional every day in developing these 5 areas in my life. And I'm going to share them with you in a moment. But what I want you to understand is your object is just not to grow. Your object is to grow in everyday essentials that bring you and me success. So my increase in knowledge may not increase my success at all. I have to be able to get better in the things that really count. So again, I'm very young. I'm in my 20s, and I'm asking myself the question, what areas count? What areas do I need to develop in my life that would guarantee that I could be successful? And then I even ask a bigger question, and this is kind of where you fit in. What areas do the people I'm going to teach and write to need to grow in to be highly successful? Over time, I developed these 5. Let me give them to you. I became very intentional in my communication. I said, I have got to learn how to speak, communicate much better. It's essential to your success. In fact, Warren Buffett says it's the most important ingredient of a successful person, the ability to communicate. And why is that? What do we do as leaders? We communicate vision all the time. We have to communicate our values. We got to communicate the principles of our life that are so solid. We have to constantly connect and communicate. So I committed myself that I was going to intentionally grow and develop myself as a speaker/communicator and also as a writer. That became a high priority. It's an everyday essential for me. The second area was in the area of leadership. Since everything rises and falls on leadership, and how well we lead determines how well we succeed, I immediately realized that I was going to have to improve and become a better leader. And so I practiced leadership every day. I spent my whole life practicing leadership. Still am, still learning, still writing books on leadership. But I knew it was essential to my success. The third area was in the area of equipping other people, developing teams, because I knew that if I was going to be highly successful, it was going to be not dependent on what I could do, but dependent on what kind of a team I could develop so that they could help me. In other words, if I just do what I can do, I will add to my success. But if I can equip people, train people, develop teams, and get them to buy into the vision, so the vision is not about me, but it's about we. If I can do those things, then what happens is I go from adding to compounding my success. So I said, okay, I'm going to be intentional in learning how to equip, train, develop, put teams together. And then I said, I also, if I'm going to be successful, I have to continually choose to have the right attitude. Because it is true that how we see things is how we do things. And perspective and attitude is so essential. It's core to a person's success. It's what I call the difference maker. And so I committed myself that I'm going to intentionally grow every day in attitude. And then the last area was relationships. People won't go along with you until they can get along with you. And I realized very quickly that I was going to have to be a good connector, relator with other people. So I worked on my people skills. Now, I don't want you to miss this because I call these the everyday essentials, because they are. For 50 years, I have intentionally worked on my communication, my leadership, my equipping, my attitude, and my relationships. Why? Because those 5 areas, more than anything else, will determine my success. And that's why I call them the everyday essentials. What I mean by that is very simply, every day I grow in those 5 areas. So, learning, growing may not bring you success unless you prioritize that growth, unless you're intentional in the things that are going to give you a great return. I not only became intentional in the everyday essentials, but I again began to ask questions. And I discovered that by asking questions, it would be a terrific growth tool, that I would learn so much. I wrote a book a few years ago called Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. It's a phenomenal book. It's all about the questions you need to ask, questions you need to ask about yourself, the questions you need to ask about others, because that's how we learn. It's the key to our knowledge and to our learning. And it's so essential. For example, I do practical things such as every month, I have what I call a learning lunch. Had one yesterday, by the way. Oh, it was so profitable. Learning lunch is where I take somebody to lunch. I buy the lunch. I don't even eat. I buy their lunch. I'm going to ask 7 questions I don't have time to eat. And I sit down with them, and the reason I'm having lunch with them is because they're bigger, better, faster, smarter, more experienced than me. And I know that if I ask them these 7 questions, I'm going to learn things that are just going to help me improve my life and allow me to intentionally grow and expand my potential. Remember, the potential question is, how far can I go? That's the question I'm asking about you right now. How far can you go? I don't know. You don't know either. The only people that know that answer are people that have those self-imposed finish lines. Well, they basically say, well, I'll grow to that level, then I'm going to quit anyway. But that's not the question. The potential question isn't where's the finish line. The potential question is, how far can you go? So I ask questions at those learning lunches, 7 of them. I've done this for 40 years. Life-changing. I'm going to give these to you just quickly because they're practical. They'll help you. And I would just encourage you, start having a learning lunch every month. Find someone bigger, better, faster, smarter, more experienced than you. Have lunch with them. Ask these questions. Here they go. Question number 1, what is the greatest lesson that you ever learned in your life? I lead off with that question every time. And I have learned so much from other people, from the lessons that they've learned. The second question is, what are you learning right now? That's a very important question. When I ask that, I very quickly find out at lunch if the person I'm interviewing is still growing. Sometimes they'll say, well, what I'm learning right now, and then they'll be passionate about something, they'll just share it with me, and it kind of spills over. And by the way, if you're learning something right now, you're passionate about it because it's new and it's fresh. And then there are times when I ask that question, and I can tell they're digging deep. They're just trying to think, wow, well, I learned something 4 years ago, but what am I learning right now? It's a question that I find out quickly if they're growing. And if they're growing, they're passionate. If they're not growing right now, the question just isn't going to help very much. Question number 3, how has failure shaped your life? Life-changing question. Every time I ask that question, I gain insight about how to make failure your friend and how to allow failure to become an asset instead of a liability. Question number 4, who do you know that I should know? It's a networking question. It's allowed me to meet some of the most important people in the entire world just because I asked somebody the question, who do you know that I should know? And then I ask them question number 5, what are you reading that I should read? And when they tell me something they're reading they think I should read, I said, now, why do you think I should read it? How did it help you? How would it help me? And it's out of that question that I buy all my books. I don't need to go to a bookstore. I just need to ask leaders what they're reading and find out how it's helped them. And I keep my reading source, my chain alive. Question number 6 is, what have you done that I should do? I'm seeking out now experiences. Tell me, what have you done? That if I did it, it would really help me and improve my life. When I was 27, I had a mentor, Lon Woodrum, who said, I have visited every presidential library in America. And I said, wow. You see, I love leadership and I love history. And if that's got both of them right there at the museum. And I made a commitment. My wife, Margaret, and I have literally been to every presidential library in America. Many of them 2 times, a few of them 3 times. It all came out of that question. Question number 7 is, how can I serve you? And I always ask that question because they've been so kind to me to give me an hour and a half at lunch and answer my questions. Now, what can I do to serve you? And I've asked that question before, and there are times where they say, well, I know how you could serve me, and would you like to do this with me, or could we do this together? I started partnerships out of that question. Now, those are the 7 questions, and how I grow intentionally and develop myself is I'm intentional in focusing on growth in the everyday essentials. I gave you those 5, and then I ask questions. I just gave you the questions I asked at Learning Lunch. Oh my, I could teach you for the next day on just pure personal growth and development, because that does allow me to answer the potential question, how far can I go? So let me give you another practice that helps me and that really expands me. And that is that I maximize my mentoring. I've been very, very blessed. I've had incredible mentors in my life. Some of them have been there for a long time. Some of them have been in my life just for a season. But there have been hundreds of men and women who have poured into me. Who I am today is so much because of the people that took time to mentor me, to teach me, to show me, to care enough for me so that I could develop and become a better person. So let's talk about maximizing mentoring, because everybody knows what mentoring is. All of you probably have mentors. The question is not, do you have a mentor? The question is, do you maximize it? Because what I have discovered over 50 years with hundreds of mentors, that in the beginning, I didn't maximize my mentoring. Today, I am a pro at it. Why? Well, I've had a lot of experience. So let me give you 2 words. They're what I call bookends, the bookends of mentoring, okay? And if you'll write these 2 words down, you'll begin to get the essence of what I want to teach here. The first word is preparation. And the second word is action. Let's start with preparation. Let's talk about being prepared before we have our mentoring session. I was in a learning lunch several years ago with a leader in Orlando, Florida. And I asked the question, who do you know that I should know? And he looked at me and said, well, I know John Wooden, and you should know him. Well, when he said the name John Wooden, immediately in America, in the States, everybody knows that he is the most successful college coach in the history of sports. He had a college basketball team that they won 10 national championships. He's known as a wise man, a teacher, a mentor to many. And when my friend said, I know John Wooden and you need to know him, I asked him, I said, can you arrange the visit? He said, yes. And literally in about 4 weeks, I'm flying to Los Angeles to spend 1 hour at breakfast with the great teacher mentor, John Wooden. Now, I want to make the very most of this practice. So what did I do? Well, first of all, he had written 5 books. So in that month that I had to prepare, I read all 5 books, underlined those books, kept a legal pad beside, and as I would read things in his books that would cause me to ask questions, I would write the questions down. By the time I'm flying on the plane to Los Angeles a month later, literally, I have a legal pad of 5 pages full of questions to ask John Wooden. I know we only have an hour. I got that. How many questions could you ask in an hour? Certainly not 5 pages, but listen to me. I'm talking about preparation. Do not miss what I'm about to say. My goal is not to have one session at breakfast with John Wooden. My goal is to be so prepared that he immediately realizes I'm not the average person coming to him for mentoring, that my desire to learn is greater than other people's desire. My hunger is greater. The energy that I'm going to put into the mentoring is higher than I'm going to set myself out. Jack Welch used to call this getting out of the pile. I'm going to get out of the pile of the big line. He has a big line of people saying, John Wooden, mentor me, mentor me, mentor me. And I'm saying, how do I get out of the line? How do I get out of the pile? Preparation. Preparation gets you out of the pile. So we went to breakfast. Sat there in the booth, probably for 8 to 10 minutes. We just got acquainted. It was nice, but to be honest with you, I only had an hour and I had a whole bunch of questions. Finally, he looked at me and said, well, John, he said, we've got a little time here, not much. He said, do you have any questions you'd like to ask? And I said, I sure do, Coach. I said, they're in my briefcase. Do you mind if I get them? He said, of course. And I reached out and I took my legal pad out of my briefcase and I put it on the table between the two of us, and he looked over and he saw that the whole page was full of questions. And he got a surprised look. He said, oh my gosh, are all those questions for me? Well, I said, yes, they are, Coach. Oh, well, he said, wow, that's a lot of questions. I said, well, Coach, I guess it is, but those aren't all my questions. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, I have more questions. Well, he said, how many do you have? I said, well, I don't know, but let me show you. And I took my legal pad and I went from page 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. I said, well, I have 5 pages of questions to ask you. And he looked at me and he said, nobody has ever come to me with 5 pages of questions. Now, what am I doing? I'm getting out of the people pile. I'm getting out of the mentoring line. I'm doing something so different that I'm catching his attention. He said, well, let's get started. That's a lot of questions. And we got started at the breakfast table, and we'd only answered a couple of them. He said, you know what, John, I've got some more time. Would you mind coming over to my home? And I said, I'd love to. And we went over to his home. Make the long story short, I asked questions till 4:30 in the afternoon. And we're only done with page 1. I still have 4 pages of questions. Well, he said, John, I just have never been with anybody that had so many questions. He said, the only thing I can think of is, he said, that we're out of time today. Is could you come back? You got 4 pages of questions, and if you come back, we'll make some time and we'll set aside another day, and I'll try to answer some more of those questions. And that was the beginning of a 14-year relationship with this incredible teacher, mentor. 14 years, going back, asking questions, learning, growing. What was the setup? Preparation. When I got to him, I was ready. Sometimes when people sit down and have a lunch with me, they want to take a picture, they want me to sign a book. And I do both of those, glad to, whatever I can do. And then I watch them and they ask no questions. And I think to myself, They're sitting with me. This is their time. They could be learning, they could be growing, and they're not prepared. John Wooden, who I've been talking about mentoring, said, when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. So what do I mean? It's very simple. Preparation on the front end maximizes the mentoring time that you have with a person. That on the backside, after the mentoring, you have to take action. If I'm going to mentor you, I am not mentoring you for knowledge. I'm mentoring you for results. It's not what you know that is ever going to make you successful in life. It's what you do. And so, when I come back to somebody that has poured into me in a mentoring session, I'll look at them and I'll say these things to them. You remember last time we were together? This is what you taught me. This is what you said the last time we were together. And by the way, this is what you said, and this is what I did. And I talked to them about how I took action on the words and the thoughts and the principles that they had taught me. And then I look and said, did I do it right? Now that you see what I did after what you taught me, am I okay? Could I maybe have improved something that I did? And I talked to them, interactive, and then after I say, this is what you said, this is what I did I do it right? Now I say, now can I ask you some more questions? Of course you can ask more questions. Why? Because I'm giving them fruit for their labor. You see, the front end, you prepare so that you set up the mentoring right. The back end, you take action so that when you come back, that's the fulfillment that the mentor has in knowing that he or she, that they have poured their life into you. It makes all the difference in the world. Okay, let me. Can I give you another one? I have a whole list of them. I'm not sure I'm going to get them all done today. But remember, we're asking ourselves the potential question. And the potential question is, how far can I go? And I'm just going to give you a hint now as far as finding the answer. You're not going to find the answer. Because I've been asking the question for 50 years. I'm still asking, how far can I go? I don't know. I'm farther today than I ever have been. But there's still more out there. The finish line is a long way off. You see, when you ask the potential question, it is invigorating. It is inspiring. It's challenging because, wow, I'm not there yet. Wow, well, I've got to stay in the game. I got to keep working. I got to keep thinking. I got to keep doing everything I need to do to reach my potential. So I've given you two things so far that keeps me growing and traveling this journey, going and growing. You know, I'd follow the three pillars of potential awareness, especially of my weaknesses, and then of course discovering my strengths so I can build them, and then of course making right choices, and then I maximize my mentoring. I do that. I continually invest in my personal growth. Okay. So let me give you another one. And when I wrote this down for you, I thought I haven't talked about this very much to anybody. It's just not that I've tried to hide it. It's just one day when I was thinking, it kind of was right there, obvious to me. But I can tell you for sure that this is continually expanding my life and helping me on my potential journey. So here we go. The fourth thing that I do is I follow my heart. And when I give you that statement, I follow my heart, right beside it, you may want to put in parentheses these three words: my heart knows. My heart knows. My mind may not know. The people around me, they may not know. But my heart knows. And there's something beautiful about following your heart, being true to who you are, being true to yourself. There's an authenticity. There's a vulnerability. All the things that I think really help a person grow and develop and maximize their potential. I think it's all in it. I follow my heart. Let me give you maybe an example or two of that. When I started writing books, the publisher that asked me to write, in our first session said, John, I told them I wanted to write leadership books. And they said, John, you don't want to write leadership books. I said, why? They said, because only 8% of the people in the population of America only 8% of the people will buy leadership books, because only 8% of the people consider themselves leaders. You're going to leave 92% of the whole market out. They're not going. I mean, look, you need to expand your market. You need to write to a much wider range of people than just 8%. So it's not wise to write leadership books. And I remember looking at him and I said, but that's my calling. That's what I do. That's who I am. I believe everything rises and falls on leadership. I think that's the secret to success in people's lives and organizations. I mean, I have to write leadership books. They said, well, I mean, you're the writer. You can write them if you want to, but we're just going to tell you right now, you're not going to sell very many of those books because, I mean, again, you're only appealing to 8% of the market. You're just not getting a very big market share on that. And I can remember looking at them and saying, well, if only 8% of the people in America want to read my books, then I'm going to write as well as I can for the 8% because I'm going to write leadership books. That's who I am. And if I don't sell a lot of books, it's okay because I have to be true to who I am and what my calling is. And I'll never forget when after my first couple books, they came back and said, we have another recommendation to you, is you like numbers and lists too much. And so you break up the flow of your writing by, you'll have in one chapter maybe 5 or 6 numbers or points. And you just need to eliminate those lists and kind of just tell stories and let it flow. And I said, well, maybe so, but I like lists. Lists are very concrete for me. And it's kind of like if I have 4 things I need to know and do, those 4 things, I kind of want to call them 4 things. I know I could weave them in a story, I'm sure, but I don't want to have the reader trying to guess what the 4 things are. I'm just kind of simple, and I kind of like to be real, plain. And I like lists. In fact, if I were asked to make a list of some of my favorite things in life, making a list would be on that list. I like lists. And so I said, I'm going to put lists. Well, they said, you just have to understand, people don't want to read books with lists in them. I got it. And only 8% want to read your leadership books. I got it. But I'm going to do it. It's who I am. It's my heart. Well, 36 million books later, I'm doing okay. Now, if I would have written to a lot wider range of audience, could I have sold a few more books? I don't know. Probably sold less because I wouldn't have been passionate about what I was writing. But here's what I know. Whether I sell 36 books or 36 million books, I'm going to follow my heart. Because when you follow your heart, you'll stay in the game. You won't wear out. You won't get tired. You won't be saying, Coach, take me out. Why? Because your heart is in it. And it's so essential. I could give you another example of when I trained. I had a company, the largest training company in the world for leaders. We've trained 6 million leaders in every country of the world. And when we finished training them, I looked at my nonprofit board and I said, I think we ought to now take the trained leaders and teach them how to be transformational. I kid you not. My board members looked and said, John, we've trained 6 million leaders. Our goal was 1 million. We've done so well. Let's have a party. Let's celebrate. Let's tie a bow on that baby. So no. There's more. Those trained leaders need to be transformational. And somebody said, well, what's a transformational leader? I'll never forget. I'm in the board meeting and I looked up and said, I don't know. I can't define it yet. I know that's what we need to do. And I know that it's a possibility and I know I'll figure it out. But I don't even know yet, and I'll never. I mean, think how awkward it is to be in a board meeting with great leaders, and you're going to teach leaders how to be transformational. You can't even define a transformational leader. Now, by the way, I can define one well now. And we've been in 5 countries and trained millions of people, and they've become transformational through values. I got it all now, but can I tell you something? I didn't get it all in the beginning. Now here's what I don't want you to miss. There are a lot of people who say, what I really need is knowledge before I act. I need to have my plan out, and I need to know, and then I go. And I said, no. You need to follow your heart. And then you'll go. And guess what? When you start going, you start knowing. You see, it's called action attraction. It's what happens that when we follow our heart and we take action, all of a sudden we begin to meet people that we need to know. And we begin to see opportunities that we need to have. And we begin to receive resources that are essential to our success. But it doesn't happen when we are still, when we aren't moving. It happens only when we move. And you won't move, you really won't move. Honestly, you really won't move until you follow your heart. Let me tell you something. Your heart will move you. Your head won't, but your heart will. Your heart says, I gotta do this. It's who I am. I'll never realize my potential if I don't. I just gotta follow my heart. And I've done that. Because I've been able to do that, I'm still asking the question, how far can I go? I have time, I think, maybe for one more. I'm not getting through my entire list, but that's okay. There may be another time. But let me give you one more. And this just helps me so much in trying to answer the potential question, how far can I go? And I owe it to you to give this to you. Because I think this is a big miss in a lot of people's lives when they're trying to reach their potential and they never get there. So I give this to you in closing. I give up so that I can go up. This is huge. What I have learned in this success journey is there are continual trade-offs that I need to make. And in the beginning, everybody understands give up. And to be honest with you, that's where we start, but it's really no big deal. When I tell people, in the beginning, I gave up everything, that sounds big until everybody knows that in the beginning, I didn't have anything to give up. I mean, I had nothing. What did I have? I hadn't built a career. I hadn't built a business. I had some time. I had myself, but there wasn't much of a give up at all. But whatever it was, I had to give up. However small, I gave it up so I could go up. I mean, if you're climbing a mountain, you don't say, well, I know I've got to climb this huge mountain, and I wonder how many things I can take to the top with me. No. You discard everything that is unessential to climbing that mountain. All you want are to take the few things that you have to get to the top on. Well, that's what I'm talking about. I'm saying you have to give up to go up. And so at every crossroads of your life, there's another give up. And here's what people don't understand. There are a lot of people, they want to go up, but they haven't given up first. And so they never realize that they can't go very far. They start out, but they get stymied. And why? Well, one of my statements I use often is the greatest detriment of tomorrow's success is today's success. And why is that? Because when we become a little successful, we want to hold on to how we do it and what we have. That's what we want to do. Oh my gosh, I got here, so I'm going to hold on to this. I'm just going to, wow, I don't want to change anything. And what got you to where you are won't keep you there. So you constantly have to make exchanges. You constantly have to make trade-offs. During COVID, I did a teaching that was highly accepted. And the teaching thesis basically was this: everything that you want and need, but you don't have it, but you want it, or you need it, but you don't have it. Everything that you want or need, but you don't have, is outside of your comfort zone. That's why you don't have it. If it was inside your comfort zone, you'd already gone over and gotten it. But you don't have it, because to get it, you got to cross over. You've got to give up some stuff to go get that. You've got to make some trade-offs to get that. You've got to jump the fence. You've got to do something you've never done before. You've got to go somewhere where you've never been before. No one ever drifted to a desired location. No one. If we get to the desired location, we have to be intentional. If we get there, honestly, we have to make trade-offs. It's a price issue. When people do not reach their potential, seldom is it that they lack the talent. It's almost always that they didn't make the trade-offs. And by the way, the higher you go, the bigger the trade-offs. I made fun of myself a little bit earlier when I said when I started out, I said I gave up everything, but I really didn't have anything to give up. But today I've got a lot to give up. And that's why many people, they start and get halfway up to that success peak, and they never go higher. That they've picked up some stuff that they're not willing to trade off anymore. It's almost always a price question. I have made in my life 7 career moves, okay? 7 of them. And of the 7 career moves that I've made, 5 of them, wherever I left to go to the next place, I made less money. In fact, I never made any career move based on finances at all. Never. But in 5 of my 7, wherever I was going next, I would have less than what I just had when I left. But you see, I never followed the money trail. I've always followed the potential trail. I've always asked myself, where's the potential? Where are the possibilities? Because that's where I want to be. Honestly, I get leadership claustrophobia. There are a lot of times when I get in a place, I think, wow, I got to have more room. I've got to, and so I've made trade-offs all of my life, and these trade-offs that I have made have allowed me to go completely to the next level. And by the way, I didn't go up until I gave up. Sacrifice always comes first. One of the things I teach is that everything worthwhile is uphill. And that's true. It's true in my life. That's true in your life. Everything worthwhile is uphill. Well, if it's uphill, there's a price to pay. Nobody ever coasted uphill. Nobody ever woke up on top of the mountain and said, how did I get here? No one ever wrote a book on accidental achievements. No. If we're going to get to where we want to go, we're going to have to be intentional, and we're going to have to pay a price. Now, I didn't get through everything, and I'm sorry, but my 60 minutes are up. And I know you want to ask some questions. I'm certainly glad to answer all the questions I possibly can. I want to serve you. I want to serve you well. But I hope my, quote, partial lesson, even though I didn't get completely through it, I hope my partial lesson helped you. I hope that now you can look at this and say, okay, I'm going to continually ask myself the potential question, how far can I go? I'm not going to have a finish line, but the things that John gave me today, they're going to help me to go farther and grow farther than anything else. And so I'm going to start doing some of those practices. And if you will, I will promise you, you'll go farther than you could have ever imagined. And by the way, as I close this out in the talk, nothing makes me more fulfilled and happy than your success. I want you to go beyond me, do more than I've ever done, climb on my shoulders, stand on my head, whatever is necessary. I want your success. I want more for you than I want from you, because my name is John and I'm your friend. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, John. This is amazing. Thanks for your leadership. Thanks for the amazing insights. To all the leaders here on our call, we have thousands and thousands of people. We actually received, John, a lot of questions, but I have just picked a couple of them, which I think are very important. Partially some of them you might have already answered in your speech right now. So, but I think it's these are the questions that repeated themselves. So I'm just gonna shoot it out, and the first one would be, what is the one characteristic that you believe every leader should have? If there is like one, a must.
Well, there's really, I have another teaching for another time, but I have a teaching on what all leaders have in common. And because my organizations are international, and I've probably spoken in at least 100 countries of the world. Regardless of the country or regardless of the culture, the one thing that all leaders have in common is this. All leaders see more than others see, and they see before others see. That's just the way it works. Regardless of country, culture, or time, they see more. And of course, what that means when I say they see more is they see a bigger picture. They see a bigger picture than the other people. And then they see before, which they not only see it bigger, but they see it quicker. And when I started out many, many years ago as a young leader, you didn't have to see before, you just had to see more. But now with social media and the times as they are, all of a sudden time is very compressed. And so whereas at one time, if you just saw the big picture, you had plenty of time to develop that big picture and be patient, and it may take a few years. Today, seeing it I think probably before is a little bit more important than even more today in leaders' lives. But that's the one characteristic I think that all leaders have in common, regardless of country or culture. They just see more, and they just see before others.
Great. See more, see it before the others. Which leads us actually to the next question. John, what are the biggest challenges you think, in your opinion, that leaders face today compared to, let's say, 20 years ago, where social media, where the world was a different place? Like, what are the challenges that they face right now in our world today?
Well, social media has changed everything, and so we're all leaders have faults. All leaders are human, and there used to be a time in your humanness that people didn't realize perhaps your humanness as much, but today with social media, everything is out very quickly, and so everything is exposed, good, bad, ugly, beautiful. It's just that the people are aware much quicker of what's happening, and that's kind of that's not always a good thing, because sometimes in leadership it takes time for something to process for the benefit of the people. And if they see just a little bit of the picture and they're immature, there's great loss a lot of times in leading people, because what they know is hindering what they really need to know more, but they already have a little piece, and that little piece causes them to act probably in a more of an immature way. And then I think that the challenge that all leaders have had, regardless of time, is when people say, what's my biggest challenge? My biggest challenge is leading me. Leading me, not leading other people. I mean, my gosh, it's easy to tell other people what to do, but it's much more difficult to do it yourself. And so what I discovered was that until I lead me well, I really won't be able to consistently lead other people well, because leadership is very visual, and people do what people see, and so they watch me, they know me, and it doesn't matter what I say. If my actions don't match my words, I have a credibility problem. I tell young leaders that when they go to a kind of a new post, whatever it is, that job or whatever, that in the beginning their words carry a lot of weight, but the longer they stay, the more their actions replace their words. And so in the beginning, you don't know me, so you take my words for a fact, but after a while, you know me. And the only way your words can have greater strength the longer you're with people is if your actions back them up. And then your words have what I would call moral authority, which is something that all leaders would like to achieve or hopefully achieve.
Wow, love it. So leading me, it seems to be timeless, and I think that will never change as long as we live.
No, I don't think it'll ever change either. I think we're stuck with that one.
That's great. Okay. All right. I have one last question, which was repeated over and over again, social media from our community, which is, what are the few resources you would recommend for someone looking to gain insight into becoming a better leader, other than obviously learning from the best John Maxwell in this area. So what other resources do you recommend people, our community to get to?
Well, I recommend when I talked a little bit earlier, I talked about learning lunches. It's a terrific resource. Every one of the people that are on this today with us, they can go have a learning lunch and ask those 7, which I gave you the 7 questions. Becoming part of a leadership experience like they're doing right here today. They need to constantly expose themselves to leadership experiences and one of the reasons I started a coaching company was to help people really learn how to speak and learn how to lead. And because again, in fact, the 5 areas I talked about, communication, leadership, equipping, attitude, and relationship, these are so essential to people. So they need to have mentors in each one of those areas of their life, not the same mentor. Find somebody that's a terrific leader and ask them to help you a little bit. When I was young, I couldn't get the attention of mentors. I mean, they didn't know who I was. And so I really committed to reading a lot, for probably the first 10 years of my life. Books. Now today, of course, with social media again, there's so much available. There would be 1,000 to 1 availability of leadership information today compared to when I started out. I mean, the access today is incredible. In fact, if a person isn't growing and learning today, honest to God, they're lazy. They're just lazy. How else could you? I mean, it's all out there. It's available to you, and so I think that create a leadership environment for yourself. A leadership environment includes several things, but that's another teaching too. But the first thought on a leadership environment is that if you're at the head of the class, you're in the wrong class. Nobody should be head of the class. I consistently put myself in places and areas that are just absolutely, their people are bigger and better. We have a Maxwell Leadership Growth app, and it's free. And so if you, that's for and we developed that. In fact, we just had it developed recently. And boy, it's just becoming very popular. But so if people just go to the Maxwell Leadership Growth app, it's a great resource, and they can just search for all kind of leadership material. This year I was recognized as no person has ever written as much leadership material as I've written in the history of the world. And and somebody said, that's pretty amazing. I said, well, it also means I'm very old. I mean, you can't, that doesn't happen if you aren't old. So you got to be old to do that. But the point being, the reason we really developed the Maxwell Leadership Growth app is because I have so much material that for people to just, if they want to be immersed in those 5 areas that we're talking about, it's why I started a coaching company. It's those kind of things that make the difference. So. But this is a great time to live because resources are really, really available. Again, when I started out, it was nothing. I had to work hard. I had to work hard. Today, it's kind of what are you not going to look at or read, because it's just a plethora of stuff out there.
Absolutely. I think we just have less excuses now with everything being accessible to us.
Yeah, John, we have also a Maxwell Leadership podcast that is #1 in the world.
Amazing.
And again, that's free. It's free. And what I love about the kind of stuff I'm talking to you about now, that it's just easy access. So the Maxwell Leadership Podcast, just Look us up. What happens on the podcast is they take my leadership teachings, and our CEO, Mark Cole, literally with another host, takes my leadership teachings and breaks it down to practice for people. How do you apply what John just taught there? So anyway,
Great.
There's a lot of resources. Good
Great.
question.
Thank you very much, John. Obviously, I can feel that we can't even start to scratch the surface within an hour and a half on this topic. So I want to ask the team to open the chat, please, because I want to ask the community right now to go in and type the number 10 in the chat box if you want to see John Maxwell more. So let's see the numbers. Here we go. Now it's rolling. Great, great, great. So for sure, we're going to have John Maxwell with us again. And I think, John, it would make sense to do some kind of a series for the people so that we can follow up on the topics and go further. For now, I am 100% sure that everyone not only enjoyed it, but took a lot of notes and learned a lot. So let me say thank you from the bottom of my heart, from our Omega Pro community. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your leadership. And we certainly look forward to see you very, very soon again.
Yeah, we'll do it some more. Any way I can serve you, let me know, okay?
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, I see the number 10s are rolling in the chat box. So what an amazing day. What an amazing training by John Maxwell. As I told you guys, we are here for you to make sure that you learn from the best. And John is certainly the best when it comes to the leadership, the topic of leadership. And we want to make sure that you guys are on the top of the game, that we want to make sure that you guys learn from the best to build your business with us. Because since we are here for the long run, we need to learn some basic important skills so that we can go out and make it happen. Guys, we have started our educational program, not to just have an educational program. We have started an educational program to offer, to add value to you guys, to your lives, to your business. And that's why we are doing this. And I want you guys to take this serious. Don't sit and look at these trainings like you're watching Netflix. I want you guys to take notes and really take notes and take action on it, because you can take notes all day long, but if you don't apply it in your life, if you don't apply it in your business, it doesn't lead you to anywhere. So for sure, we're going to see John C. Maxwell again. And with that, let me say thank you, each and every one of you guys, Omega Pro family. We look forward to see each and every one of you on the next webinar on our educational platform. So thank you very much. Have a great day. Have a great evening. See you guys soon.